Hey, Dad.
What?
Do you know what I want?
What do you want?
Pancakes.
Okay, I'll get you some pancakes.
And then, do you know what else I want?
What else do you want?
TV.
You want to watch TV? Okay, I'll turn it on for you.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail.
You know what?
What?
I only want to listen to a radio show.
What radio show?
The Forgiving Soldier radio show.
This is the Forgiven Soldier radio show.
Strangers become your brothers. They got your six swinging back against that wall. And you will never have another who cared for you when times got rough. That's a brother who cared for you when times got tough. That's a brother.
And now, your host, Brian Basham.
All right, welcome into the Forgiven Soldier radio show. This is Brian. I got a great guest this week as well. I've known this lady about 6 years, 7 years, something like that. It's getting up there for sure. That's my fam. You know,
yes, fam.
She's part of my fam.
Yes, fam.
I got Miss Leanne Musick. How you doing, Leanne?
I'm doing good, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, I'm excited.
So I just want to set this show up for you a little bit. So Leanne is a planner. If y'all don't know who Leanne, you're about to. But she's a planner. She wants to know, everything that she needs to do, right? Out in front of her. And she's been asking me for about 2 weeks, like, hey, give me some questions. Give me like where we're going to go with this. And I haven't gave her anything.
Yeah, I like to be prepared.
So she is not prepared today. So every question
so you get the raw version of me today.
Yeah. Every question I ask is from the cuff, not prepared, not planned or anything. So
be ready.
But that's what the show's about, just to be open and honest, and I don't want no robotic answer and all that stuff. So,
Brian, do you see me as a robotic person?
Not at all.
Okay, so here we go.
But if I prepared you, then you would be.
I just like to have good answers. I like to be at my best self.
Well, we're gonna get to the good answers.
That's good. Here we go.
All right, here we go. Question one. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
we don't even do it. We don't even do that. So I want to. And this is just when I started this journey that I'm on, I said on the video I do it for selfish reasons because I like to meet new people, and it's therapeutic for me.
And that's something that you and I have in common too,
Yeah, it's just therapeutic to talk and get to meet new people because you never know what life has and who God puts in your life that'll change your trajectory.
Love spiritual connections.
It will change your trajectory. Whatever.
Trajectory.
That's it.
Boom. See, we all got to help each other out.
I know.
There it is.
So when I first heard about Miss Leanne, I heard you were hard nosed and just full of energy, which you are. And we were so excited about putting Addison in dance because we came from California where she loved dance, and we tried out other places here, and she came home crying. She's like, I don't like it. I don't like it. So we found she loved hip hop dance, and we found you, and it changed our life for the better for sure.
That's a big soul smile.
It is. So how long has Musick Studios been open?
16 years.
16 years. So 16 years ago, let's go back 17 years. What was, because I know you plan a lot of stuff. So what was Leanne doing? What was the life? Like what was the thing that kind of sparked it? Like, hey, I got an idea.
So there is, excuse me. So there is a story.
Okay.
So, I was a single mom, I was a single mom for many, many years, and I worked in the restaurant industry because I grew up at the Royce. Everybody knows the Royce back in the day. I mean, biscuits and gravy, sausage and biscuits. I mean, omelets. It was plate lunches. It was everything. And I learned a lot of people skills through my journey with my family, running with the Royce. Yeah, I didn't get to go to parties on the weekends. I had to work the bar shift, So that was always interesting for me just because I learned the work ethic very young at a young age. So I was in between actual jobs. I've always been one to work and be a workhorse. I'm used to working the 40, 60 hours a week. My goal was to always increase my income just because I was a single mom, wanted to prepare the best life ahead for Jada, Excuse me. I'm not used to talking on a microphone on a consistent basis. Anyways, so there was a transition that I worked at Montana Mike's, and that restaurant, without further any information, I suppose, it was time for me to leave, and I had about a week break, to say the least. And so I knew, I was like, I'm going to give some time to Jada. We're just going to sit home. We're going to do what we ever do. We didn't even have cable TV. I didn't even have cable TV. I mean, we were watching Wizard of Oz every day and Mary Poppins every day, and we would play shopping cart with the plastic toys.
Shout out to Mary Poppins, my favorite movie growing up.
Yeah, I like Mary Poppins. I mean, and I think that's where a lot of the the dance, kind of came into play with Jada and I. And so anyways, so I was sitting there watching a movie. We were just watching the movie Honey. And I was sitting on, this is no joke. I had a $25 couch that I bought from St. Vincent de Paul. Cause again, I was a struggling single mom. I didn't know, I didn't have anything, I just didn't. And I provided the best I could. Didn't even have any bed frames on my bed. Like we were sleeping in a mattress. Just goes to show how much your grind truly is worth it whenever you get, to where you are 16 years ago, if you really work hard with it. Yeah. So I was sitting there watching the movie Honey, and I was like, man, that woman, Jessica Alba, she inspired me to the point where I was like, I'm going to go start my own dance class, and kind of chuckled at myself. Long story short. So I was like, I'm going to go to the Heinz Center. If y'all even remember where the Heinz Center is, the Heinz Center, that's cute. You don't even know where it's at, but it's massive, and it's a nice building.
Is it still around?
It is, but it isn't.
Okay.
Anyways, it's interesting. There's a lake out there that I sit sometimes when I'm having some different, struggle times mentally. I'll just go sit in the parking lot in front of that lake and just sit there for an hour or two, just to kind of reprocess, talk to God, do what I need to do to kind of reprocess. But anyways, so I went to the Heinz Center and Teresa Thomas, and I was like, hey, I want to start a dance studio. I mean, there was like a mirrors at the very end of the big event space. And I was like, I'm going to have it here. She's like, do you have a business plan? I said, what's a business plan? So she said, well, I think you need to go down to the EDC. That was the chamber, the Economic Development Center. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, I did. So what I truly, truly did, and it is a kind of an extensive story, but what I truly did was I followed the path. Anytime I was ever giving any information, I would do it. And I wouldn't do it without, I didn't even hesitate. So that go to EDC. Okay. Build me a plan for 5 years. Okay. I didn't even know what it was like to write a check. I didn't even know what it was like to forward think 6 months, single mom out here working restaurants, just taking care of people, shaking hands, loving people. Didn't know anything about it. So yeah, so I had to meet.
You danced before. It wasn't like you watched Mary Poppins.
Like I danced in high school. I danced in middle school.
Okay.
I did. I was fun, but it wasn't any to the extent of this. I never took classes. I mean, I went to college. I did go to college. I got an associate's degree in business management, but then I got pregnant. I had Jada, and I finished the college degree while I was a single mom. So that was another accomplishment that I did, because there are people that have the same story.
Mm-hmm.
You make some different choices, and life gives you a different path. And you just take it for what it's worth. So. Long story short, everybody's like, you need to meet Terry Woodward. And I'm like, oh, who's Terry Woodward? And finally I met Terry Woodward, and he was like, are you that dance lady? And I was like, I am. I says, glad it's, news travels, I guess, Chambers, Owensboro. I've learned that's a small town. I've learned that very quickly. And sure enough, he's like, well, you want to drop that K in your last name? I said, no. That's my last name is Musick. And he's like, well, I'll just see you in my office on Monday morning. And I was like, okay, and the one thing that I truly remember from that conversation, was Terry was like, man, you just need a chance. And I feel like I want to take a chance on you. And because no one, grinding, single mom, me, little old me. He even asked me if I have skin in the game. I was like, what's that? That was you said 17 years ago. I didn't even know what skin in the game was. Man, I've learned a lot, but push come to shove. And I said push come to shove, but that's just me saying, again, long story short, it happened. The studio happened, and it's been a blessing ever since.
Yeah. And we're not going to go through every year, because every year brings us different challenges and different rewards and stuff. But I do want to talk about that first year, because it's a special year, because you didn't know, like you said, you're green in all of it. So in your mind, you're just starting a dance studio. Forget all this other stuff.
Yeah. So being mentored by Terry Woodward, he was like, you need to get a loan, and I was like, what, okay, cool. What's a loan? Like, I didn't know. The most I had gotten was like a car, and I was still paying monthly payments. He's like, you're going to have to get a 6-figure loan. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. What?
Yeah.
And he was like, you need to get a loan. And so at that point I was like, okay, I'm really going to be doing this. I better put my bootstraps on. So the first year, I was in the red. I lost, I'm going to say 75% of that bank loan because I had to buy employees. I didn't even know I had to do taxes. I didn't even know what taxes were, and at the end of the year, here comes this accountant that I just happened to meet, and it was just like, you owe X amount of taxes. I was like, that's absurd. Why does the United States do that to us? We're supposed to be making money. What is all of this for? I still didn't even understand, but I will just go for the second year. I almost closed the doors, so I called my dad and I was like, Dad, what am I going to do? He wasn't going to help me. My parents didn't really help me with money. They were like, if you're going to get something, you're going to grind it yourself. So I appreciate that from my parents teaching me that and instilling that in me. But again, that second year, my back was against the wall and my dad said, what are you going to do? You're either going to sink or swim. And I was like, I'm going to swim. And so I had to wait to pay. I had one more payroll to make, or I wasn't going to make payroll. So I got my income tax. I was a single mom, you know how you make those $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000. Well, I took every bit of that income tax check and put it into my bank account and paid my employees. And then that next season, I grew 80%. Yeah. I went from 120 kids to I almost said a cuss word, almost to 250 kids within my third year. And I was like, wow. So that just took its own second challenges of, okay, now I've got it, but what do I do with all these kids? I don't have enough staff. I don't even know what I'm doing. So then it just kind of went in from there. It just went up from there, honestly. The right people came to the right places.
And I think it's good for the community, especially if you have kids that I think every kid should try it. And at least give it a shot because it gives them confidence is the main thing.
It does. As far as for dance, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But just in life.
I'm such a huge advocate for kids to go ahead and be like, hey, I want to try soccer. Please do.
Yeah.
Go try T-ball. Please do.
Yeah.
Go let the child find whatever they want to find, but we'll always be here. Whenever they want to come back, they need a little bit of sprinkle on their, their confidence. We're here for them. And that's kind of what that whole process has become.
And I know just from my daughter, just the confidence level that she's gotten from it. And that she continues to get from it. There's still areas that she needs help in.
Yeah, but look at her now. Like she's been here for 6 or 7 years, and now she's got her junior internship program. Yeah. She's helping kids. We try to find children's and then young teenagers and become young adults, and then young adults. We find what is good for them, like what works best for them. So you can't do a back handspring, back tuck layout, but you can make a child feel good. Yeah. You can hug a child and notice that something, hey man, are you having a good day today? You need those people too in the studio. You can always have your star shooters, whatever. And that's great. Everybody needs to be everybody, but we try to find everybody's individuality that makes them shine in who they are.
Yeah. If Addie ever lands a flip, I'll be shocked. I'm gonna be honest. She's tall. She is tall. She takes after me for sure. So,
but she's a good person.
Oh yeah,
and you can and it's great to be athletic and all, but a good person is the soul of who we are.
She's so strong.
Mm-hmm. She's a base lifter.
She hits me, and I'm like, okay, you need to ease up. Just chill a little bit. You hit me like a man right now. All right, let's take a break right here. You've been listening to the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show on 90.3 WKWC.
John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends." Thank you for listening to the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show.
Veterans Empowered Together is a nonprofit 501c3 organization made up of veterans for veterans. We want to personally invite every veteran out to our Coffee with Veterans event every second Saturday of the month. If you have questions or want to get involved, our website is www.veteransempoweredtogether.com and our number is 270-852-6518. Find all the current events on our Facebook page as well. Facebook.com/Veterans Empowered Together.
All right, welcome back into the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show. I got my special guest, Miss Leanne Musick.
What's up?
If you missed the first half, it's kind of the origin story, right? We're going to play this like a movie because it is. It's a great story. And I remember watching a showcase. It was probably the 10-year showcase is when you did the whole, hey, this is who I am, this is where we came from kind of thing. And I was intrigued. I was like, man, That's amazing. Like I had no clue.
It's a skill to kind of be, and I say skill only because being vulnerable, you have to be able to trust yourself and trust the path that you're doing, and you just got to be vulnerable to people.
Yeah. And that's tough. I mean, especially for guys. And you we talked before the show, you're kind of with us on,
I do have a little bit of alpha female in me
of the way you think and everything, which is good. I mean, that's how we got to where we're at. So through your 16 years, there's got to be like a feel good story, right? From a kid or an adult or something. Do you have one of those like that you just keep close to your heart and like just check in on it and say, this is why I do it?
That's kind of it's a broad question for me, because I would say
probably many of them. You probably have different.
It's not even one in particular, and I'll be honest with you. There's plenty, God, we've seen, I'm going to say 10,000 students, 10,000 kids. I think the beauty that always comes back to humble me is that it's the staff that I have acquired and being able to have the honor to work with. Like I can get emotional just thinking about them, like just having Deasia. I had her at 4 years old, and just look at what Deasia and I have experienced in our life. Like it's branched out to my daughter and her were best friends. I'm best friends with her mom, Geraldine. She is just being able to give myself 100% to just people and watch them grow and what I've taught them and then what they've taught themselves to succeed. That's where I think the most humbling and beauty experience for me has been, is I've been able to say I've had infancy to young adult, and providing jobs and providing atmospheres and giving them a creative space and just being a part of their kids' lives. Like now we're in generational, we're in it's watching the kids come off the stage when they've worked so hard for a year, not just at the Halloween show or at the showcase. It could be at a competition or at a solo, how hard it is to be up on a stage by yourself and watching a kid, come off and, oh my gosh, I did that, and I can get chills right now, just hugging them and be like, man, you did that. You accomplished something today that most people have never done. So it's being able to give that first experience to people is probably the most gratifying.
Yeah, and I got a funny story. So the first competition that Addie was in, Two Geek, she was in this little 6-person group, and they were awesome. But it's my kids, so I can say that.
But they were awesome.
They were awesome.
Mm-hmm. They still are good. They're real good.
Yeah, they're still there. So, but the first competition, it was in Nashville. And I was a proud dad just seeing Addie up there and just dancing. I was like, man, like I had no clue she could do this, right? And I was in the back recording on the phone. You remember this?
Yeah.
And I was recording on it, which you're not supposed to do. And I was recording my phone. I was like, let's go. I'm getting into it. And then you came up to me like, hey, you can't record, because I was standing right by the people. And I was like, oh, okay. But I still had the video. And I've never posted it, but I will eventually. So I don't.
That'd be fun.
But,
and what are they going to do now? They're going to kick us out.
Just the experience of a parent of seeing their kid, because I didn't know she could do all that. Like I see her practice and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But to put it together. So that's
the beauty of a coach's job, to be able to provide that for parents, to be like, hey man, this is what we've done with your kid. You know what I mean? That's
keeps
fun.
People coming back. Like obviously if she wasn't no good and we looked at him like, well, she's trash. Like we're not gonna come back.
She's not trash.
I'm saying like if it was that, like she's not really into it, so I'm not gonna come back. But that's where you come into play, is like they had so much respect for you and what you did. So I love seeing that. I love kids coming up to you after the show and taking pictures with you. They got to have your picture. So to me, I went off script a little bit, but that's what it made me and Sarah feel like, is, okay, she found a home. She found her place, and maybe when 16 years down the road, Addie will drive to Musick Studios just to refresh her minds a little bit. It's like, hey, this is.
Oh, that made me feel good.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like, because like kids in general have anxieties about everything.
They do. And
there's separation anxieties and everything. And Addie has it. But not at the studio. When she's at the studio, she's with family. She's good, and that makes us feel good that she can have a place like that other than her home. Well,
and it makes us feel good. And I say this for my own, but I'm pretty sure I could speak for everyone at the studio as well. It's a big commitment to parents too. It is. Oh, and when you trust someone with your children, you have to have that and uphold a lot of respect for you and the child. And I think that's where, respect is given, respect is received. People might think of it and look at it differently, like, well, she's got to give me respect if I'm going to give her respect. That's not how it works. That's not how the world works in my head. And I could be different from everyone, but, or whatever. I might have some similar people out there, but I'm the type of person, I'll trust you first. You don't have to earn my trust. I'll be the first. I'll say hello to you just because I love people, so again, it's a commitment factor on not just the child, but it is the parents too. And that's why I like to nurture. Now that I'm in the position that I am 16 years later, quote unquote, you said 17, but 16 years later, I get to have a lot of relationship with people, with adults, and look where you and I and Sarah have come from in our own friendship and relationship and how it's helped us in business and just the whole 9 yards. And that's just one set of three
we're
or four.
intertwining right now. And
yes.
And it's awesome. And we and there's, I don't know, it's crazy. I mean, obviously the 16 years you see different stuff and you've learned from what not to do and everything. But I think, let me get your perspective of Musick Studios and the community. Like, just from the Halloween show that we just had, like,
I would say there's a lot of support.
Yeah.
I was told 16 years ago that I would never make it, that there wasn't enough room for multiple studios in Owensboro. And I'll tell you that is farther from the truth. And I really appreciate and respect Joy Johnson. I really do. Like, her and I've had some lunches together and we've talked about, things this past couple of years. And, it's just great that, I had a pioneer to look up to and kind of see, okay, she's done it for 30, 40 years, I can too, and then, as future continues, hopefully bridging those gaps of, bringing things together and for our community. I get lost on tangents too.
No, it's fine. And I think the community is a big part because, if they don't realize what we have here, then it won't grow. So I think the community has realized, like, hey, we got some talented kids and talented people running these dance studios, right? Yeah. And then, like, we have people that are into art and we have people that are into music. Like, this community is...
There's a lot of talented people.
There's a lot of talented people.
There really is. And without speaking about future times, but you asked me about the presence of the community, and that's another thing that we also had to deal with was 16 years ago, the inclusivity. Gosh,
that's a big word.
It is, but I don't even think I said it right. The equality, the unity, all that type of stuff. We were already in that, and in Owensboro, being front runner of, accepting people who they are, accepting people where they are, and accepting all realms of people. They taught me too, and they opened my eyes too, because I could have been just like everyone else and just been judgmental and, oh, I don't believe in that. That's not my faith, and this, that, and the other. And then it could have spiraled down here from there. But instead of approaching it in a judgmental way, I approached it in an what can I teach you and what can you teach me type of way. And that's where I think has expanded my horizons, to look at a child and be like, you know what? That's why we're going to uniforms at Musick Studios, because some people can afford, back in their day, Justice and all those big expensive things. And some people go to Walmart and Target. Fine. So we're going to have a uniform so everybody's the same. Yeah. And I've prided myself on that, just because everybody is equal, no matter what. No matter where you come from, how much money you got, how much money you don't have. But if you want some food, we'll cook you some.
Yeah, we're not judging you about money.
No, not at all.
Heart.
Never have been. And I appreciate that about Musick Studios the most. So I would say community would be just showing that we are for everyone.
For sure. That
cliche, all for one, one for all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll leave it on that. We're going to take a break. You listen to the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show on 90.3 WKWC.
The Forgiven Soldier Radio Show. Christ offers forgiveness for everyone, everywhere. Nehemiah 8:10. The joy of the Lord is my strength. This is the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show.
All right, welcome back into the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show. I got Miss Leanne Musick here. If you missed the first two segments, make sure that you download the podcast.
Oh, you'll want to. This is fun.
This is fun.
A good time.
Good information. Get to know people in your community. That's what it's here for.
It's important too. Right? It really is.
Now, do you play an instrument or music or anything?
In my head.
In your head? Okay. I mean, with the last name like that, you would think like, I got to get into
We do get calls at the studio. Like, do you all do a recording studio? And I'm like, not yet.
Yeah.
Ooh. Not yet. Ooh.
teaser.
Teaser.
Anyways, we'll leave it at that. So doing the Musick Studios and the, the fun part for me, and it might not be for you, but the fun part for me is the competitions, because you get to go out of town and you get to wear your brand, right? And I know the kids love it when they get their award up there and their medals, and they're like, "What studio you from?" They just shout it out.
They do.
But I like the relationships that even from the parents, like that you make on these trips, because you're going through the same thing. So for you, when you're going up, young woman, dancer, all this stuff, like what was that in your head when you started? Is just like the relationships that you're going to get in the future, or were you just focused on the, what I'm saying? Like, did you manifest what Musick Studios is 16 years ago? You
Listen,
know what I'm saying?
I'm going to be honest. For the type of person that I am, I'm not one that looks back. I'm one that stays in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a forward future thinker. So sometimes like my friends are like, "Hey, you need to come down to reality just a little bit."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm also not the type of person that's, wear my brand. I've never been that person.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Sometimes like, man, they're wearing Musick Studios. I'm like, cool. Like that's cool. But that's never been my identity.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And the ones that are close to me know that, like, man, today we're not talking about Musick Studios at home. You know what I mean? Like, it's not always about, the careers and this and that. Sometimes people just want to be like, "Hey man, how was your day?"
Yeah.
How was, and that's how kids want to be treated, and that's how people want to be treated. And that's kind of the same thing for me too. The competitions are fun. You asked me earlier in the episode, you said about yourself. Well, for me, what I've learned these past 16 years is that I did have a lot of passion, but I didn't know how to channel that correctly, and I think that comes with maturity. I was a pretty tough coach. I was, but I had good intentions, and most parents saw that, but some parents didn't. And, and that's okay, because I took those some parents and changed my ways, and when you hit a hard knocks life, like I did a couple years ago, I had this picture perfect life, and then a couple of years ago, it kind of just got out from underneath me, and keeping going into that grind and that healing phase has definitely come out on the other side more positive. I just know that if it wasn't for everyone's even mental notes or conversations or helpful hints or whatever it may be, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. And learning to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's a big thing once you get older. Like, you don't really think about when you're young.
No, you're just grinding. You're doing, and I was single mom, like, you know what I mean? So you got to do what you got to do.
And there was a saying, I don't know who said it. I heard it, is if I knew I was going to live this long, I'd take better care of myself. Sure. When I was younger. And that goes mentally too. Like mentally, like I know for me, I didn't care. Like, it is what it is. I'm going 100%. And I just talked about it at church. Like, I was jumping off barns. I was doing crazy stuff. I didn't care. It was fun. It was fun to me. And then in the Army, like, didn't I care? I was jumping off balconies and
just living life.
I like to jump off stuff.
I mean, I guess you do. I was like, I need to get you, need to tell Sarah, you need to jump out of an airplane.
I'm good. I'm scared of heights now.
Me too. But I did jump out of an airplane, but I'm scared of heights. I'm like, I'm done. I live my crazy adventurous life.
I have a funny, so in basic training, right? They had this helicopter, and it was a treat for us that they had this helicopter. I was scared to death of it. So we had to get in the back, and I was artillery. I wasn't airborne. I didn't sign up for it, but we flew in this helicopter in this like land or whatever. And then they lowered it down, and we had to jump out of the helicopter and row. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like, this ain't fun for me. I mean, literally the helicopter was from this desk to this ground.
Okay. So I'm not even 2 feet.
But I was, like,
Brian, but you're jumping off barns though, man. What's going on?
That's when I was a kid, and a little,
I got
a little confidence in me, but I couldn't do it. But he pushed me out, and I did anyways. But I was scared to death of it. I don't know.
But
why.
you overcame a fear, though.
But yeah,
and that's what these kids do every day. They'll get on stage. That's a fear of a lot of people, to be on stage and be in front of people. But being able to exuberate your yourself, your energy, your who you are, your aura, everything around you just gets put on in the audience. And I just think it's so cool that people just get to experience that.
And I like it. And I know you don't look backwards, but I'm gonna kind of force you to look backwards. So just talking about that confidence, right? The kids on the stage, and they do the dance, and they come off, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I just did this." Like, when did you have that moment when, like, you're done with Showcase? That's a kind of the end of the year thing for us, or for you guys, for us too. I'm part of it. And you look back and you're like, I can't believe we did that. You know, I can't believe we had that great of a year and all this stuff. Like, has there been a time that you had that, like, and it might have came early. It might have came like, oh my gosh, like we pulled this thing off.
I think I will be.
Yeah.
I think for Musick Studios, I think it truly was just, it's been a journey, a learning journey. I think this next chapter, I think I'll be able to get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A little time to reflect and like,
and just be like, okay, it wasn't just one, but two.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just a little bit, but a big impact. You know, I'm always striving for the next goal, you know, and you only live one life, you know, and that's kind of where part of my healing comes into play. Is like, okay, how many more things do I have to complete for you, God, to, you know, get that one push, you know, or what all do you want me to do? I'm your servant. Like, what do you want me to do for you today? You know, I write every day. I'm journaling. I'm almost on 600 days of journaling every day. And that's been the most self-healing for me, is just, I'll talk to God every day. Listen, I've had a bad day. Why'd you do that to me today? Yeah. You know what I mean? And then there's times I'm like, man, I'm so grateful today. It's just like, I know he doesn't judge me, so I can be who I am and who I am, you know, with myself every day. So,
and that's how God wants you to talk to him, is talk to me like a father.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your day. Like, hey, God, I'm struggling. Like, tell me why you had me go through the struggle. Cause there's a reason. There's a reason for all of it. And once you realize, like, okay, I see why you did it. You know, that's probably
where, to answer your question, it's those moments.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can look back and be like, the shows and dance, well, that's great. You know, that it's been great. It's been amazing. And it's been all of that. But I truly, through the past couple of years, have truly been like, man, thank you for letting me have my career today. Yeah. You know what I mean? Thank you for letting me bless this today. Thank you for providing this for me today. So, you know, whatever, I think that's, my mind is shifted. So it's all been good. Yeah. I still get nervous on the microphone. That's why I don't really dance a whole lot on stage anymore, because I'm just like, you know, it's still nerve wracking, and I'm 40.
But you're so good.
Oh, I appreciate the compliment.
And people love to see you out there. I mean, you get the loudest cheer.
Well,
like, oh, look at this.
Well, because I'm y'all's age, man. I'm y'all's age, man. I still got it. You know, I still got it.
I got on the stage one time and danced, and I think I broke a hip, and I still haven't recovered.
By a lot.
So it was horrible. Well, Leanne, thank you so much for being on the show. I know
thank you for not even prepping me for any questions. It was a lot better than I expected it to be. Thank you.
You know, it's just natural. I want the real response. So this is the part of the show where I just leave you the mic, and you say whatever you want to the people listening.
Well, first and foremost, I am one to be grateful. So I say thank you for even giving me, you know, your time and your energy today. I think there are wonderful people in our community, Brian. I think you're great. I think you wear so many hats. Your wife wears so many hats. And I think nowadays, as fast paced as the world is, we all wear so many different hats. It's just, if I could give any advice, is take a moment, stand where you're at and breathe, look up to the sky and say, man, thank you. You know, because if it wasn't for the life that we live, we wouldn't be where we are today. Everybody can make their own choices. Be positive, be honest, be trusting. And with those qualities and many more that you have in your own personal self, life will be good.
Amen.
Amen.
Hey, thank y'all for tuning in to the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show.
Thanks.
You've been listening to my dad on the Forgiven Soldier Radio Show. The Forgiven Soldier Radio Show is a broadcast service of Veterans Empowered Together and 90.3 WKWC.